Do you dream of adding your very own book to the collection of books that have already been written? Do you wonder where to start or how to finish? Does the idea of writing a book seem too overwhelming? Do you just want to polish up those writing skills or stay motivated? Do you wonder what to write about? Everything you need to help you write, stay motivated, and self-publish your own book is right here on one channel. And why? Well, because it's time to get over the writer's hump and just do it. You can write anything. Yep, you can write a book. Hello and welcome to a book. I'm thrilled that you are here. Once again, we have a fantastic author for you, and I know that you are going to thoroughly enjoy getting to hear from our author today. But before I introduce him to you, please do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, because when you subscribe to this channel, it actually helps our authors out. So today we're going to hear from a gentleman by the name of Gary Weiss, and he is here to talk to you today all about the writing process, his books, and what he has going on. So Gary, welcome to today's show. I am so excited that you are here.
I am too, and I'm all tangled up in this headset because I'm trying to get my glasses off so I can see everybody. I got a lot of glare coming off my lenses I can see, and it's like I get a lot of glare off top of my head too. That's why I wear this hat. So I'm being very courteous to all my audience. So I appreciate everybody who came in today.
Gary, I'm so glad that you're here. We had a little bit of a hiccup getting started today, but we're here and we are going to have fun. I can't wait to hear all about your book and your writing, but I know that our audience would love to learn a little bit about you and who you are, what you do, and how you got started writing. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, I thought there would be a question like that, and I sort of dry run a couple approaches to it, but I think I can go back and blame it on my Aunt Betty, because it was the third grade where I really started writing, and everybody wrote letters in those days. There was no internet. If you wanted to talk to a relative, you wrote them a letter because you couldn't afford to make a phone call. So my Aunt Betty was a third grade teacher, and I was in the third grade. And she would send my letters back to me with red pen corrections, with notes in the margins, and a grade. And it's like, I have been under scrutiny since the third grade with the things that I write. So that's when I officially started. My grandfather is a master storyteller. He's written a lot of children's books. And my dad is a and I think I've been genetically predisposed for the best of both worlds. And I love being able to tell a story. And that's the objective. If I can tell a story that'll keep somebody engaged and they sit back and go, dang, that was good.
Yeah.
I like to get a reaction like that. And there's people that say, you really need to write a book, because I used to do a lot of short stories and stuff. And it just sort of grew into a short story called Dreamweaver that turned into Dreamscape Conspiracy. And 4 books later, it's a series, and I'm working on the 5th book now. And it started as a 3,000 word short story and just sort of mushroomed. It's cool.
Oh my goodness. When you were talking about that, the getting your paper corrected in red ink, I certainly remember getting a lot of red ink, but mine was for handwriting. I don't know if they even do this anymore with, keyboards and whatnot with kids, but I had to take remedial handwriting. Is that something? That's how bad my penmanship was. And so I remember seeing a lot of red ink on my paper as well. But all of those things, really, they don't feel like it at the time, but they make us better, don't they?
I think they absolutely do. So I thank my Aunt Betty pretty often for staying on me to use good sentence structure and, make sure the punctuation is right. And the scores I got was misspelling mostly, but I've got spell check to help me there.
Yeah. All these modern conveniences that we didn't have as kids. So let me ask you something. When did you first start writing stories? Obviously when you were younger, you wrote little stories, but when did you really know that writing was your thing? And when did you start?
It kind of started when I was in a corporate environment because I was in the corporate learning and development side of the business. And I designed training and I wrote technical documents. So there was a lot of, I mean, I've been writing for 35 years, but it wasn't until I wrote Confessions of a Performance Ninja after I retired that my first book, and it was nonfiction, came to the surface. And it was sort of encapsulating 35 years of being a performance consultant and surviving. And that's being a performance ninja, black pajamas, cheap sunglasses, the whole bit.
Well, that's interesting. I think you and I have a little bit in common because I helped businesses with their communication needs. I went in and I would do evaluations to see where they were failing with communication with one another. And then we would do workshops. And I remember putting together plenty of learning material in my time. So
those are flashbacks for sure. And it's like, okay, I'm done with that. Let's move along.
And then you started writing fiction.
Right. I did fiction. Mirror, Halloween Party of the Century was the first one. And I love that story. And that started as a short story as well. It was 8 years earlier. It just sort of sat on a blog and went nowhere. And rereading some of those stories is like my muse would say, dude, there's more here. There's more story here. You need to sit down and write more story.
So were you just blogging these short stories at first? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been blogging since 2009. And that's the web address that I gave you earlier before we went online.
We're gonna show the audience that in a little while.
Okay. But that's got every post since 2009. And I've got people that have been coming to that blog to borrow or steal. And that's fine because that's why it was written, because it's something that somebody can use at work. That was the whole premise behind the Confessions of a Performance Ninja was, here's where the landmines are. I've already been through there. I've got some footprints you can follow, or you can do it on your own. And it's kind of like, here it is. And that's been a labor of love for like 3 or 4 years after I retired. And then the fiction, those stories just started coming. I'd hit the short story and read that, and my muse would go, man, you need to get busy. Yeah. And the next thing I know, there's 2 chapters, then there's 4, then there's 8, then there's 22. And it's like, this is a 600. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, I just disappear. I would disappear from Earth. And it would, unless I needed to get up and go to the bathroom or get something else to drink, I never would come out of the trance.
Oh boy.
And it's fun. I love it. I can just escape.
Well, that makes me wonder about your writing process. Do you outline, or do you just sit down and whatever pops in here pops out on the keyboard?
I do both. A lot of times I will outline after the fact because there's a storyline that has an opportunity to split. And I need to know how I'm going to split it. And having sort of a roadmap behind, the footprints of the story behind me, that's vital information. I make so many notes when I write a story of names and how much a person weighs, the color of their hair, their eyes, just all those kinds of things that come out in, here's John and he's, 6'3" and an ex-linebacker, I call it that kind of thing. Just some personal, to give some color and some persona to the people that are in the story, because they're the ones that are going to tell the story by their actions.
So
They say, what they
I
do.
think you told me before we got started that you write in third person. And that is, you like to tell the story, you said, through your characters. And I thought that was a very interesting thing that you had said to me because character development is such an important part of writing whenever you're writing fiction. I mean, you have to develop your characters so that the reader has a good sense of who they are, or they just won't enjoy the book. But the fact that you put so much effort into telling this in third person so that your characters are the ones telling the story and not you as the narrator is very fascinating to me. Tell me about that.
Well, as a good example, there's two characters in book number 4 that were thinking, one of them was thinking they could get together, and one of them had no clue. And I won't tell you who they are, but it was a situation where the female character had a pretty good idea of how dense this guy was, and she was going to have to lead him along. And he was dumb like a fox. And it got into a confrontation back and forth because of what they were each attempting to do in their own separate agenda that had nothing in common with what each one of them thought the agenda should be. And it's like you have to get into somebody's head to be able to describe, I hate that. It's just too short, and she looked so much better. Her hair was down, and she was down all the time instead of up like that on the top of her head. Then you're in the head of the guy who's thinking about what he's going to say, and he hasn't said a word yet.
Oh boy.
That's what's going on in his mind. It's like, I hate her, that kind of emotion. And so when he does finally say something, you don't have to describe how he said it, because you've already set the stage in the context of this is going to be a heated dialogue, and going to go down here in some ways going to lose an eye. I mean, I love to tell a story like that where there's going to be something that happens and you know that it's coming. And to me, that's writing engagement into the story, because the storyline's got to keep moving.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. So your writing style, how would you describe your writing style?
It's very much stream of consciousness.
Okay.
I joke on my website and everything that about the relentless wench muse that is always sitting with her knees in my chest telling me to write, giving me instruction, telling me what to do, but she always manages to remain just out of reach. And that's kind of who drives. All I do is write down what she gives me.
When you write your books, do you start with the end in mind? Do you know exactly how it's going to end before you start?
I have come to an end about 1,500 times as I write.
Oh boy.
Because there's no end in time. I mean, there's the potential for an end, but it's subject to change. Because my muse may get a wild hair in the middle of a storyline where I'm trying to keep up with what her thinking is. And it's like, whoa, that's just changed. Mm-hmm. I'm going to need to go back to the last 4 paragraphs and modify some stuff in order to go where you want me to go. And it's an open dialogue. I talk to her. I talk out loud while I'm writing. But it's people think I'm crazy if they were here, and they probably will do now, definitely, now that they're seeing this.
Well, the craziest people are the best writers. That's what I've been told. So I always like to write with the end in mind. That is my process. I can always see my ending, and then I'm trying to get there, and the story might change along the way. And sometimes I do have to change my ending to make it all work. But a lot of times I think about that last chapter before I think about the first one. So it's interesting.
For me, the ending has to become more clear, and it can't become clear until I'm close enough to it. Is that six chapters, or is that 6 paragraphs? Mm-hmm. It can end that abruptly. Wow. I've had short stories that do that. Mm. But that's It all depends. I don't think I have a particular approach. A stream of consciousness is probably the best description, I think.
Let me ask you, how many books have you published so far?
I have 7 total, 6 of them fiction. The nonfiction I mentioned earlier.
Okay. And your very first book, I know you said it and I missed it. When did that come out? Your very first one?
2022.
2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Okay.
Right. And then they were like 5 or 6 months. They just start popping out after that.
Okay. So when you sit down to write, you've already mentioned it, and I do the same thing. When the writing bug strikes and I'm in the mood to write, I don't leave that computer until my head's so empty that I can't go on anymore. And then I look up and I say, oh, I think I forgot to eat today. Oh, what time is it? I get so lost in all of that. But your process, it sounds like, is somewhat similar to mine, that stream of consciousness, although this third person, one of my struggles is dialogue. I struggle with that quite a bit because I'd always written in first person. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about your dialogue writing and how you go about developing that skill.
You have to be a good listener
to
write dialogue, because I have to hear the dialogue before I can write it. So there's a dry run going on in my head, and a lot of these confrontations between two people that didn't start out as a confrontation, but the second part of a sentence, somebody said something that was offensive, and now somebody's taken offense, and it starts heating up. You have to work all of that into the dialogue, and it might not be words.
Do your characters have a lot of arguments?
Not necessarily.
No.
I've got a couple that they pick at each other in good humor. And in Mirror, Mirror, there's 2 detectives that are bickering back and forth all the time, but they're best friends.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon to have.
Is it more of a banter then? They're bantering back and forth? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That's a better description.
Okay.
But to me, that is part of writing good dialogue, because it really unveils things that are implied but not necessarily said because of what was said.
So that character development then is coming out through the dialogue. Would that be accurate? Right.
It comes out through the dialogue, and it comes out through the dialogue that they have with another person, making mental notes of body language, or she really looks sad, or I wonder what's going on.
Okay.
That's not spoken. That's just what's going on in somebody's head as they're observing somebody speak.
So you're having this dialogue between the characters in your head, and then it just comes out through this stream of consciousness. You're imagining what they would be saying to each other, and you go from there. Am I understanding that correctly?
Right. And I'll go 3 or 4 more words, a couple of sentences, and then I'll back up and rewrite all of it. Because if it doesn't sound right, I have to hear it. I mean, after it's written. And that's why I like the whole concept of audio narration is I have to hear the story and the inflection of the voice and everything else. I have to hear that. And the only way that you can write it appropriately is to hear it.
Yeah, so something that I have done, I don't know if you do this yourself or not, but I've actually read my book out loud into a recording. I've recorded it, and not that it would be a good enough record, because I'm doing that for editing purposes. So it isn't something that I would read and then send off as an audio book, but I do that as part of my editing process because I want to know that it sounds correct in the ears of, or the mind of, the reader. Do you do that?
Oh, absolutely. And that is probably part of the most tedious parts of editing. Is editing and then re-editing and then reading and then rereading and re-editing, and you never really finish editing. I've written in a couple of blog posts. You either get tired, you run out of time, or you die.
Yeah, isn't that true? So do you send your manuscript off to someone to edit? Do you get another set of eyeballs on that?
I have some friends that I share some of it with. I don't have a paid editor because I don't have a form of payment at the moment. That's why we're here begging for readers to buy. But no, I don't. I use Grammarly.
Mm,
I like it. There's parts of it that I don't like, and it's to me, it's sort of a suggestion, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, if it's passive voice and it needs to be active, nice catch, thank you.
yeah.
But if there's words that to me are part of my speech style and they want to back it out of my storytelling, that's an issue, and
Yep.
I'll dismiss it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you still
Yeah, but
have to go
it's
through
good
it.
to catch those certain little things, like maybe we forgot a comma or a capitalization or something along those lines. It's good for those things.
Yeah, and that's why I would use it. I personally feel a story needs to come from the head and heart. It can't come from a software application.
Yeah,
So I don't want AI writing my stories.
yeah,
That'll never happen. Not in this life.
yeah. So you don't use AI then as an assistant, maybe for ideas or anything like that?
No, I do my own research on Google on all the topics that I think are going to be relevant. And I spent hours on AI, just AI consciousness, AI developing a conscience, because that's what's in the fifth book.
Oh
And
boy.
I really needed to understand it. And it's very, very close and very, very real. And AI is a lot scarier than I ever gave it credit
Mm.
to be.
We
And
we
that's
did
interesting.
We did an episode here last week. Our author that was on, we talked about AI. That's what our episode was about, was should AI write books and what could go wrong? And is AI a good, useful tool? And I'm of this school that it is a good tool, but it is not a substitute for good writing by any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah,
No, I totally agree. I
yeah.
had somebody reach out to me on Facebook on Messenger and wanted to know how I was doing, which is the standard opening phrase. And I wrote back, and most of what I wrote back came back to me with a couple words on the front end. And I accused of whoever it was of being a bot.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and and they went away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it was,
you can kind of tell when those things are not real, when it's not a real person. So, all right. So you get your books written and then you run it through Grammarly, you have somebody look it over. Um, what is your process from there? Do you do all of your formatting yourself to get your books on Amazon? How do you go about that?
I go through Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP,
KDP,
and they have a template driven program to self publish,
correct?
and it is stupid simple.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it's in Word format, uh, that's fine for the purposes of an ebook, but if it's going to be paperback, it needs to be in PDF.
Hmm.
So that's the only real formatting. But you have to choose the size of page of what it's going to be if it's a paperback book. I just use 6 by 9 as a default, and everything I do is 6 by 9. Some people go smaller, but I like a larger page. Uh, and my artwork, the covers, they're all mine. I go to canva.org, and they've got a ton of art.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
ones that I've used so far have been free,
Yeah.
but they have for a very reasonable cost. You can buy others.
And then
So if
you use Canva to make your covers. So a
right,
lot of people do. Yeah, I've used Canva myself. I use Canva for everything. My thumbnails for my videos. I really enjoy Canva. So, all right. So that is kind of your process, right? Of how you go
right.
about doing everything. It sounds like you're a one-man show. You do it all on your own. You're not hiring other people to do any of the process for you, which I think can be very encouraging for a brand new writer who is thinking, oh, I really want to write a book, but I don't know how to do all of these things, and it's going to cost me a ton of money. And it does not have to cost you any money to get a book out there, correct?
It really doesn't. The money that I have spent has been spent on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
After the fact, advertising, putting it boosts on posts, those kinds of things that you can do on Facebook or any other site for that matter. And that's been the most out of pocket pain has been that. I mean, it costs me nothing to write except keeping the coffee flowing. And that's just part of the game. But no, I mean, Kindle Direct Publishing is free.
Mm-hmm.
Putting it on Amazon is free. You split the profits with them for letting them do the marketing page that they'll put together with you for your author page to put all your stuff on it. So there's a single place for everybody to go. I mean, it's been very easy and very helpful.
Yeah. So one thing I do know is there are some people out there who are just not, they're afraid of technology. They're not comfortable doing it all by themselves. They want some help, and they're in a position where they can have somebody else help them. So, and on that note, I want us to talk for just a moment. I want us to hear actually for just a moment from Victory Vision Publishing, because this company, while they're not an actual publishing company, they do help people self-publish. They help people get their books out there. They show them what to do. They format for them. They do the hard stuff that sometimes can stop people from getting their books done. So we're going to take a break and we're going to go hear from Victory Vision Publishing, and we will be back in just a minute. Hey everyone, are you stuck trying to figure out how to finish writing or publishing your book? Well, let me tell you about Victory Vision Publishing. Victory Vision Publishing is there to help you cross that finish line. They have package plans that are tailor-made just for your individual needs. They have learning opportunities where you can discover ways of overcoming some obstacles that you might have. Adam Fleming is a wonderful CEO, and they are a fully staffed team just waiting to help you edit, lay out, maybe make a cover for your book. Go ahead and join their email list and check out some of the wonderful books and wonderful authors that they have already helped get published. Yep, Victory Vision is definitely the way to go if you feel stuck and just want some support in getting your book out to the world. You're only one book away from changing the world. victoryvision.org. Okay, we are back, and we've been talking with Gary Weiss. He's been telling you about his writing process and all of the great stuff that he has done and that he has going on. Gary, I want to spend just a moment pulling up your books. If that's it looks like you're still tangled up.
The left side was still hung up. I thought I was free.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. Well, we are going to go ahead and share with our audience, if I can get my mouse to quit stuttering on me. So, oh, come on. So let me tell the audience a little bit about what's going on with my crazy mouse. Yesterday, my external drive, there's a little USB thing to make my mouse work. But my external, I have an external USB drive, and it broke off in the plug-in. I had to get a pair of needle nose pliers and pull them out, get a new drive. And since then, my mouse has been giving me issues. So I'm going to have to get that fixed. But in the meantime, let's go ahead. I want to pull up, Gary, you talked about Amazon getting all of your stuff organized on your kind of author page here. And these are your books. I know that your latest book, if I'm showing the correct one, was Dreamscape Conspiracy. Is that correct?
Dreamscape Conspiracy is the first of the four. So yes, that's number one.
Okay. And when did this book come out?
2023.
23? Yeah. Okay. And you made the cover for this. You did all of this yourself.
Yes.
And tell us just quickly what this book is about.
This, as I said, started as a short story. There was a university campus in North Carolina, outside of Beaufort, North Carolina, called Central State University. This is a fictitious campus. Dr. Kara Williams is the director of a psychology department, and they were doing dream therapy projects, dream studies, capturing dreams. And one night they had a accident in the lab, and a dream that was supposed to have been captured actually got sent into another person.
Oh my gosh.
And that other person ultimately attempted suicide about a week later as a result of that. So there was a lot of turmoil over what are we going to do with this capability that we discovered that we can do. And it gave them the ability to do dream therapy. And Big Pharma got involved because if you're doing dream therapy, you don't need pharmaceutical therapy. And that's the conspiracy.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it just continues to grow, and it's one battle after another with the thugs from Big Pharma. It's quite a wild ride.
So I see here, this is your Confessions of a Performance Ninja that you were telling us about early on. I see that one here. So which one came after Dreamscape? You said this was the first of four. Which one comes after it?
It's just showing you the top titles of where you're looking. There's actually a couple more. I think if you click all formats there at the bottom, yeah, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
The second one is Beyond Dreamscape Conspiracy, and that picks the story up after there's been an attempted coup to destroy the lab and the team.
And
And
then
the
book
third,
three would be Fear of the Jump.
Fear of the Jump, and that's after the AI has been introduced, and they're all concerned about the AI jumping into networks where the AI has no business being.
Okay.
And the AI jumps, but it's not into the networks they ever thought possible.
And what is the fourth book?
The fourth book is Dead Thoughts, and that's when the AI, if you can go back to that previous screen, you'll get right to it.
Okay, let's see. Dead Thoughts.
Dead Thoughts. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. That's the fourth book. And that's an interesting story because the AI discovers in the 4 to 6 seconds between the heart stopping and the brain actually dying, it's active. And the AI extracts some GPS coordinates in that 4 to 6 seconds as the last minute message from the dying brain, and that starts an adventure because there's counterfeit DEA agents involved, and there's not much dream capturing going on in this book. It's really interesting as to where they can go with this because of what Amy, the AI, is enabling them to do.
Oh my.
And it's sort of setting up the stage to Amy going rogue. She doesn't in the fourth book, but that's where she's going.
Oh, goodness gracious. There's a lot of thought that has gone into these books. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
So you said,
could be a mini.
so let's see, how many total are going to be in this series? I know we showed four. Is there a fifth one?
The fifth one is marginal. It could be standalone, but
Okay.
it's going to have enough hooks to be still considered part of the conspiracy series.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Well,
Same characters.
one other thing that I do want people to see is your website. This is your Learning by Living website. It's learningbyliving.blog. If you're interested in that, we're going to leave links in the description of this video, both to the Amazon and to the website. So you'll get to see Gary's website as well. But I want to go over here. This is your website. So we can kind of take a quick peek at that. And then if we go to the library, if you go to the library on Gary's website, that is another place that you can go and find his books and find out more about him as an author, just a lot of stuff on this blog page here.
There's an abstract for each book.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so they can click on that and it'll take them to the link where they can actually purchase the book as well.
Correct.
But yeah, okay. All right. Well, fun. Well, let's stop this for just a minute. I want to talk just a little bit more. You shared with us your process of writing. You shared with us that, that you write in third person and let your characters tell the story. What advice do you think you would give somebody who's brand new to writing, who says, I really want to write a book, but I'm a little nervous. I'm a little scared. What would you say to that person?
Sit down and write. I mean, and I'm not being facetious. I mean, I was a sales trainer, a presenter, and I had to be in front of a classroom, and I was terrified. And the platform instructor that was working with me was sitting there in the booth to watch me on my maiden voyage. And I told him before I went in front of the class, I said, man, I got some serious butterflies. And he said, let me tell you something. When you don't have butterflies, you need to get out of the business.
Mhm.
You just need to get them to fly in formation. And it's kind of like, whoa. And that's what I would say about writing is just get started, get something down, because it's not in stone, it's on paper or it's on a screen, and you can go back and change it. That's what's so cool about it, because it's alive and you can become alive in it. That's what's so cool about it. Don't pass up the opportunity to tell a story to somebody.
Oh, I love that. And we live in a day and age where there really are no excuses for somebody who wants to write a book to not get to write. It used to be that people had to send their manuscripts off and wait for permission from a publisher, but that's not the case anymore. Just like you said, KDP is fairly simple to, it may be simple for some people, but not for everybody. My first time using KDP, I fought with that thing and fought with it. And there was a learning curve for sure. There was a learning curve.
Yes, definitely.
There are so many places out there to get help now. YouTube videos, you can watch tons of videos. There's so many how-to blogs. There are people in writers groups who are more than happy to tell you this is what you have to do to get your book up on Amazon. And there's just, I think the barriers to writing have all been removed in our society. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. It's like I'm getting ready to start doing audio narration in my short stories, and eventually I'll tackle Mirror Mirror. And it's like I just have to get over the fear.
Yeah.
I have to get over the fear of doing that. And it's like there's nothing permanent about what you start to do, because you can always back it up and redo it.
You can always
It's
start
like,
again.
yeah. But my dad always said there's two ways to do something: the right way and again.
And again, I never heard that before.
Oh yeah.
I've heard the right way and my way, but never again.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so that would be your advice for somebody is just go ahead and get started. Just do it. Yeah.
I know that's not what somebody who's like wanting a roadmap to become a writer, because that has to be your map,
Mhm.
because it's got to be driven by a story.
It does.
So come up with a story.
Everybody's process is different too. Some
Uh-huh.
people are very tedious about outlining. They want to have everything, kind of mapped out before they even get into doing it. And other people like yourself and like myself, we can sit for hours on that keyboard. Some people they set time limits and they say, I'm going to write for an hour every day. So everybody's process is different. Everybody's way of approaching storytelling is different. Some people want to narrate. Some people like yourself do that third person narration. So yeah, I'm with you. I tell everybody, you have to just do it.
I saw a Stephen King quote about just write, then make it right.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Gary, do you have any parting words of wisdom for our audience today?
I think a good thing to do would be settle down with a good book, whether it's on a Kindle or you've got a piece of paper in your hand. Just settle down and read something. It'd be great if it was one of mine, but there's a lot of stories out there.
Well, you certainly have some good books that somebody could go ahead and get. And so I just want to let everybody know we are going to leave some links in the description so that you can go find Gary's books. And the nice thing about that, Gary, is now that people have had an opportunity to hear from you, when they sit down to read your book, when they curl up in the corner and they're leafing through the pages, they're going to feel like they know a little something about you. And that makes the book so much more personal, and it makes the book come so much more alive.
I totally agree, and that's why I maintain a social media site on Facebook, and I also have a Dreamscape conspiracy page that I think is in those links that you'll leave. It keeps you up to speed on author thoughts and other nonsense and anomalies that pop up from time to time. It's a journal, slow moving journal.
That's awesome. Love it. Well, Gary, it has been fun having you here today. We've had a good time. I've really appreciated the discussion. And so we're going to let our audience go. But again, you can find Gary's books by going to the links that we leave in the description of this video. It's been a great conversation that we've had about the writing process and especially Gary's writing process. And I'm glad that you spent your time with us. Well, as always, thank you for joining us and God bless.
Thank you.